So in this video, I'm going to show the main steps for building one of the mini electric Surrons, like this one. This one's actually broken at the moment, but I'm also going to build another one. I'm not going to show like a full in-depth video of exactly how to do this. Mainly, you're just going to follow the wiring diagram that's already online on the printables page. And this is just going to be like a general thing, but that shows a few of the things that might help. So what I did so far was just put the frame together, and I spot welded a piece of nickel strip to the end of the motor thing so that it moves around. And then I pressed the motor through so that on my motor, at least, there's a little, it's hard to see right now, but there's a positive indicator, a negative indicator, and the positive one is on this side right now. I want to make sure that's towards the right or back of the vehicle, and then the other one just doesn't have a label, so that one's going towards the front, kind of. So that's going to be the way the motor's oriented. And then the next steps are going to be wiring up our PTC fuse, switch, and then harness so we can connect our batteries. So the wiring diagram online actually doesn't have the PTC fuse on it, but what I want to do is I'm actually going to reverse the polarity of these two wires. So this is going to be my negative, not my positive. And I'm going to run my positive just straight through, and I'm going to put the PTC fuse in the middle of that, going towards the positive. So this one's going to be my positive. It's going to go up through the JST, connecting the batteries, and then the PTC fuse is going to be here, and then it's going to go into the motor on the positive side. I'm just swapping the side. So I'm going to put the switch on the negative side of the motor. So these JST 1.25 connectors are what connects the batteries to the rest of the system. And so I'm going to use the red line, which is always positive. Red generally means positive. And on the middle of this, I'm probably going to snip it fairly towards the middle. I would recommend leaving a little bit extra wire in most stuff, just in case you end up messing up your soldering and you have to redo it and need more wire. That's useful, but I'll probably cut it in the middle and then attach that to one of the ends of this PTC fuse. The role of these PTC fuses is to make sure that we don't overdraw from the battery and damage it. So they should prevent the battery from overdrawing, and they'll heat up a little and slow down. I'll end up, this is I believe it's an RF09 or 90, but I think it stands for at 0.9 amps it starts limiting, and then at 1.5 amps it's like a very fast cutoff, and 1.5 amps is the max that the batteries can output. So I'm going to just put one of the legs of this, and I'm going to solder it to the red leg of the harness. So I just soldered the positive leg of that to the PTC fuse, and now I'm going to use the wire I cut off, or you can just use some like spare wire, and I'm going to solder that onto here, and then also solder it onto the positive terminal of the motor, which is the upper one, or the one towards the back of the bike. So I just soldered the wire onto here, and before I forget, actually, I'm going to use some larger heat shrink, and I'm going to try to put it around the end of this, just to hopefully stop this connector from bending and potentially breaking. So I finished soldering this connector on, and so now, and then I bent some of the wires to about the place where they're going to go. So I have the batteries will attach to this wire, which will then go down to the PTC fuse into the motor, which will then go up, and then this black wire here, which is the ground wire, will be attached to the switch, which will be right here, and then that will go down to the negative pin of the motor. One more thing is, when dealing with these switches with 3 terminals, you want to use the middle terminal and then either of the 2 edge terminals. The middle one is the one that's attached to the moving piece, and then the edge one goes from the moving piece. So if it's over here, it's connecting the middle and the edge one, and if it's the bottom one, and if it's up here, it's connecting the middle and the top one. So I'm going to use the middle and the bottom one in this case, and that's going to mean that right now it would be off, and then right now it would be on. So now I soldered it to the switch middle terminal from the black wire, but I did forget to use heat shrink, which was stupid, but I'll just use on the other wire. It's not a short circuit risk. So now I'm going to connect this bottom one here to the terminal on the motor right here. So I just finished soldering everything to it, and so now I'm going to plug in the battery and we'll see if it works. So I just checked and it works. It's kind of difficult for me to turn it on camera with one hand, but and it's spinning in the correct direction. So I attached everything in a way that kind of made sense, kind of bent a lot of the wires a lot, but yeah. Essentially I have the wires from here running up to here. The PTC fuse wire comes the whole way down to the bottom so that that's exposed. And this wire can come out or go through the hole that will then bring it to connect to the battery wires. Really, you just gotta mess around till it looks pretty decent, and I don't mind it. I also love the frame color with the black batteries. I think gray is just beautiful. This is all printed in PC blend, which is a precaution filament that is just incredibly durable. Really like it. I don't know, it's looking great. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make the series connector. To make the series connector, you can see here how you have to connect the positive terminal of one battery to the negative terminal of the other battery. And then you need to take the positive terminal from one of the batteries and the negative terminal from the other and just connect them into a connector at the top. So I'm going to show you the steps to do that. It's kind of tricky to see, but it's kind of laid out in the way that you'll see it. So this is the connector that goes into the terminal on the Surron, and these are the two connectors that go to the battery. So on this left connector, we have the red wire going up to the connector at the top, and then we have the black wire going to the red wire of the other one, which then sends the black wire up to the black wire at the top. So that will double our voltage. So I'm just going to solder all of this together. And I'm going to use some heat shrink to make these connectors here more durable so they don't bend and break, because that happened a few times with my other one and it's kind of annoying to replace them. So definitely do that on the batteries, and I'm going to do it here too, I think, just to try to make it a little bit more durable. So just finished the mini Surron, put everything together, including some inverted forks, but I will not release the file for because they suck. As you compress, there was a mud guard thing, scratch guard on the other stanchion, but it fell off. Almost all the time it'll hit into the side of one of the straws and it'll just stop the compression after like a millimeter travel. I still haven't figured out a way to fix it, and it puts a ton of stress up here on the straws, so I've already gotten a flex that caused it to kind of stick here instead of compressing the whole way. Like, it can compress a little farther, but not the whole way. Another thing, when you connect this wheel together, the rear wheel, you want to glue the sprocket to the dowel first with hot glue, and then on the back side, super glue it. And then you want to measure it into, like, put it into there. You want to add a little extra room and then put on the wheel with just a tiny dot of hot glue and then just super glue it. And the sprocket. So these are like the three things that need to be remembered. Is the sprocket, you want to make sure it's on straights so that when you rotate it, it's not like wobbling, like it's not longer in one side, because that'll slow it down significantly. It needs to put much more torque in one section. So mine's almost perfect, not quite there. And then you also want to make sure it's straight this way, so when you do it this way, it's not wobbling excessively and like bumping from the bottom to the top. So mine's not the best, but it works. So yeah, that's the full build on this mini Surron. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'll try to answer all the questions that are commented. I think it looks pretty good. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.